Okay, so time to get rolling. Now, unfortunately, it's not usually stated as clearly as this on the invoice. A lot of times there's some subtle wording on the shipping that's used. Our first example here, we're going to state it clearly, and then we'll look at how it kind of gets disguised in there. But so our date, let's say, is going to be March 11th. The amount, we'll keep it simple here at $2,500. And our terms, $210 net 30, FOB destination. The FOD, okay, FOB destination. Shipping costs $180. For this invoice, does the shipping mean anything?
No.
Why not?
No, what are you trying to look for?
Well, FOB destination means seller pays the freight. So the shipping would never appear on this invoice because that is the seller's cost. Usually, they won't come right out and say FOB destination or FOB selling point. This one that...
Sorry, just real quick. I ordered something from Hong Kong.
Yep.
And I didn't have to pay shipping. And their argument was, you don't have to pay for shipping, but we also can't tell you where your package is until it arrives.
Yeah, the person who pays for the shipping has the rights to the tracking. So when the seller pays for the shipping, they have the tracking numbers and they have the right to track the package. If you pay for the shipping, the second that leaves the manufacturer and is in the hands of the shipping company, you own the rights to that tracking number.
Okay.
So in a problem like this, they would probably word it as seller pays $180 shipping. Very subtle, but the seller paid it. It's the seller's problem. Well, what if it was FOB shipping point? Well, that wording, rather than seller pays $180 shipping, would probably be worded as seller prepays $180 shipping. The word term prepays there implies that they are going to be repaid. The shipping company isn't just going to pick up the merchandise, take it to the buyer, and hope the buyer pays them when they get there. They're going to get prepaid by the seller, and the buyer is going to reimburse the seller for that amount. I don't think COD even exists anymore. So let's look at an example now with that terminology. So our invoice date is going to be February 27th. The amount, $9,400. Seller prepays $800 in shipping costs. Who's going to have to pay for the shipping then, in other words? The buyer. Terms. $210 EOM. How much if paid on April 8th? So we need a timeline again. What is our effective invoice date? March 31st, right?
Oh, sorry.
We missed the February batch, so we go into the March batch. So it's March 31st. So the end of our discount period would be April 10th. And the end of our credit period would be April 30th. They paid on April 8th. Which means they get what discount? 2%. How much do they owe? Well, 9,400 plus 800 would be 10,200, right? There you go. That's the big thing right there. No discount on shipping. Okay. No discount on the shipping ever. The shipping is a real cost to the seller. So they're going to recover that cost. It's not a price of the product. So we're going to start out with the 9,400 times what? 0.98. Where did the 0.98 come from? Perfect. The 100 minus 2. So that's going to give us $9,212. So then what do we still have to do to that?
Shipping.
Add the 800 in shipping. So the total amount due is $10,012. What do you think?
Whenever they say free shipping, it's not free. You just don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, it's just included in the price of the item.
Nothing's free in this world.
The seller prepaid the 800. The buyer has to reimburse the seller.
That's interesting. I never knew that.
Yep. Okay.
That's usually if you're getting something that's really heavy and has to go freight, right?
Yes. The fact that it says prepays, since it's the seller prepays, that word prepays implies that the buyer is reimbursing them. So even though it doesn't say FOB shipping point, that prepays implies that the seller paid it, but is going to get reimbursed by the buyer. Now, the clue is if it's FOB destination, if the buyer isn't going to have to pay for the shipping, they don't put the shipping on the invoice at all anyway. So if the shipping amount appears on the invoice, 99% of the time, that means the buyer is going to have to reimburse it. So let's say our date here is December 2nd. An amount of $5,800. Seller prepays $400 in shipping. terms, 110, net 30 ROG. Delivery is confirmed on December 9th.
Yeah, it makes it more, well, when I have a concept, it's easier to follow these numbers.
Yep. Yeah, so the package is delivered on the 9th, December 9th. So how much is paid if it's paid on December 18th? So our timeline, does it start on December 2nd? No. Starts on December 9th, when the delivery is confirmed because it is ROG, receipt of goods. What is the end of our discount period? December 19th. And what percent discount are they going to get? Only 1%. It's a 110. What is the end of our credit period? January 8th. It's still 30 days from the effective date, which is the December 9th. This is just ROG, not EOM. So paid on December 18th means they squeezed in and got the 1%. So what's the size of the check they're going to write? Perfect. Yeah, we start out with the 5,800 times 0.99 because it's 1%. So it's 57.42 right there. And then what? Plus your 400 shipping. So yes, it is exactly 61.42. Yeah. Good. Let's talk about partial payments. Sometimes they don't have all the money to pay everything up front. The most important thing about partial payments is how the discount is calculated off a partial payment. So far on discounts, what we have done is we have taken the amount due. Notice the invoice amount, that's the amount that's going to get credited times that complement, that percent complement, to get the amount paid. So let's say the amount that was due, the amount that's going to get credited to the account is $800. And let's say it is a 2% discount. That means we're going to take that 800 times 0.98 because that's the percent complement of 2%. That gives us $784 is the amount paid after the 2% discount. What if they didn't pay the full amount? What if they were only able to pay $300? But it's still within the discount period, so they still get that 2% discount. So this is still going to be 0.98 here. But what we're looking for is this value here. How do we work this backwards? Well, if going in this direction we multiplied, if we're going back the other direction, we're going to divide. We're going to take that $300. We're going to divide by 0.98. Their account is going to be credited for $306.12. Why on earth do we do it this way? Why don't we just find 6% or 2% of $300 and add it on or subtract it off? Well, because remember, that percent is calculated off of this number, and we don't know that number yet. The 300 is the amount after the discount. Now, the amount you pay is the amount after the discount. If you remember back in the last unit, we had that table. Full price minus a discount equals the amount paid. And in this case, the percents, full price is 100%, 2% discount, so the amount paid is 98%. On the dollar amounts, 300 is the amount paid. We're trying to find that full price. So you cross multiply and divide. 100 times 300 divided by 98 is 306.12. So the moral of the story is, if we're given a partial payment and they're getting a discount, we take that partial payment divided by that complement of the discount.
So at the end of the month, if they still haven't paid, then they're gonna get interest, so then they really, doesn't it all work out in the end?
Kind of. In accounting, there's one thing they discuss. Well, it's actually not in accounting, it's actually in the finance side of it. They actually discuss the time value of money and the percent you actually save by taking advantage of that 2% cash discount. And that 2% cash discount over 10 days actually ends up being like 40% that you're saving on your money throughout the year. So if you're borrowing that money, you're getting that 2% in just 10 days. So even if you're paying 20% annual interest on a credit card, you're better off using the credit card to pay that bill to get the 2% discount and getting it paid off on the credit card within the next couple of months. You still end up money ahead in most cases. So that 2% discount is, like I said, you're getting 2% for just 10 days. So then, as I don't want to get into that formula right now. It's kind of complicated, but that 2% is only over 10 days. So on the annual scale, that's really saving you a huge percentage of money. 2% on a 10 day is actually like, I believe it comes out to 36% annual rate. So anyway, let's say the date of this invoice is July 8th. The amount, $7,000. Terms, 210 net 30. Partial payment of $2,500 is made on July 17th. Find one, the amount credited to the account, and two, the balance due. Sometimes referred to as the outstanding balance. I'm not going to draw out the timeline here. July 8th to July 17th is within the 10 days. Everybody see that? So we are going to get the 2% discount. How much did they pay? $2,500. So what happens to that $2,500 to calculate? This is the amount paid now, remember. What do we do to that to calculate the amount credited to the account? We divide it by the 2%, which actually it's going to be 0.98. Very good. So it's going to be what, 2551? No, we'll do it on the check here. 2551.02. That's the amount credited to the account. The amount due, in other words, that's the amount still owed, is going to be found by taking the amount of the invoice, 7,000, minus the 2551.02, which is the amount of the credit, which is going to give us $4,448.98. That is the amount still owed, the balance due. What do you think? Not horrible?
Yep.
So the invoice date, May 19th. Amount, $4,700. Seller prepays $500 in freight. Terms, 115 at 30. Partial payment of $2,000 on May 30th. Find the balance due, or the outstanding balance. Question one that we should always verify, do they get the discount? It's 115. So from May 19th, 15 days would take you to it'd be June 3rd, right? Either way, it's past May 30th. So they get the discount. So what's our first step?
2,000 by 0.99.
That's what I figured everybody would say. But what's different on this problem? There's freight.
Oh,
Freight, not only do you never get a discount on freight, but freight is always paid first. Freight is an actual expense from the seller. They're going to get that full amount and they're going to get that up front as soon as they can. The first payment goes towards that expense. So our first step is to take that partial payment of $2,000 and subtract the $500 freight. So that $1,500 is what's actually going to get applied to the invoice. So now the $1,500 is going to be divided by 0.99, which is going to give us $1,515.15, I believe. Yeah. That is the credit amount. Now in this problem, I didn't ask for the credit, I just asked for the outstanding balance, or the balance due. So we take that $4,700, that's the invoice, and we're going to subtract the 1515.15, which is just that, which is going to give us 3184.85. Is the outstanding balance, or the balance due. What do you think?
this is fun.
I'm sensing a little sarcasm there.
No, I'm not. I'm
Oh,
serious.
okay. Cool. Something that actually has an application? Well, I hate to do this. Now that we're all feeling good about ourselves.
I know.
Okay.
What hell is coming out of it? No.
I'm sensing a lot of sympathy there.
You can do math problems with what you see.
On March 26th, PMF Corp purchases $18,000. Purchases merchandise listed for $18,000. PMF receives a 9.8 trade discount. The seller prepays $700 in freight. Terms of sale are 210 EOM. PMF makes a payment of $7,000 on May 8th. How much is still owed? And what date is it due?
we go home and just think about it for a week?
26th is the cutoff date, right? So like on that date is the last day that it can be?
On that date, it goes in, on the 26th or after, it goes into the next month.
Okay, so 25th is the last day.
So the 25th would be the last day to stay in March. So yeah, if we looked at our timeline here, this is EOM. On the 26th, I mean, it does not get into the March batch. So that ends up on the last day of April, which is the 30th of April. The end of the discount period then would be May 10th, and it would be due on May 30th. May does have 31 days, but remember we said the 30th of that next month.
It's too late.
What's that?
Shouldn't that be May 9th? Oh, wait, oh, 10th, I'm sorry.
10th. Yep.
You said 9th.
10 days after April 30th should be the May 10th. April 30th is the last day of April, right? So the first would be the 1 day, the second would be 2 days. So this is going to be the 2% discount period, and they do make that payment on May 8th. The amount of that payment is $7,000. So now I've already answered part of our question, by the way. The balance due is going to be due May 30th. That was the easy part. The hard part is figuring out how much is that going to be. So we have this $7,000 payment. Where do we start with that $7,000 payment? We take out the freight. We subtract 700 in freight, which gives us 6,300 that goes towards the invoice.
Now, does the trade discount matter at all?
Yeah.
Or is that just,
Yeah.
you know, revenue?
That does matter yet.
Okay, good. Dang.
We've got the $6,300. We're going to get a 2% discount on it. So we're going to divide by 0.98. So our credit here is 64. Oops. 642857. That's the credit from this payment, right? For the partial payment. We haven't established how much is owed yet, though. It's a 9.8 discount. The 9 means it's going to be a 0.91. The 8 is going to be a 0.92. Does that look familiar? That's from back at the beginning, the trade discounts. That multiplies to give us 0.8372. That is our net decimal equivalent. So we take our full list price, which was the 18,000, times that 0.8372, to give us $15,069.60. That's the actual amount that was on the invoice. That's the net price or net amount. So it is from that amount that we will subtract the $6,428.57. I get $8,641.03 is the amount due. It's the balance due on May 30th. They do. I mean, that discount was $3,000 almost.
Crazy.
I think that's a great problem to leave you with for the week.
Oh, thank you.
There is a new quiz that is due tomorrow, so that's due Thursday at 11:59 p.m. And there is a new homework due for next week, next Wednesday. To start off next week, we will do probably another example of a problem just like the one we just did. Maybe two if we have to, and then we're going to get into the second side where we go from the retailer to the consumer. Have a great week.